What's up guys, Lisa He of Borderlands Bakery, and today we're going to be making these strawberry shortcake crumbles. The original recipe for these crumbles are from Tracy's place. I'll link her in the description box down below. I made them once and I wanted to make a couple of modifications, and I'll talk through what I changed and why I did that. If you look at Tracy's recipe, she uses half a cup of flour with the strawberry jello and half a cup of the flour with the vanilla pudding. For the vanilla pudding portion of the crumble, I'm actually going to be using graham cracker crust. I think it's going to give it a little bit of a caramelized honey graham flavor, and I really want to capture that in my strawberry shortcake crumbles. These are the ingredients that we're going to need for our crumbles. Keep in mind, you can be really creative with it and sort of use different flavor of jello to make different flavor crumbles. We're going to need 2 bowls. In the first bowl, we have our vanilla pudding mix, just dry. And then in our second bowl, we have our strawberry jello mix, also dry. All the ingredients as well as measurements are going to be listed in the description box below, so expand that to see it. For each of these bowls, you're also going to need half a stick of room temperature butter. So what I mean by that is when you squeeze it, it's soft, but it's not melting or liquefied. For your vanilla pudding crumble portion, we're also going to be using half a cup of crushed up graham crackers. These are honey graham crackers. And I'm going to be putting in a splash of vanilla extract. For our strawberry portion, we're also going to be throwing in half a stick of that room temperature soft butter and half a cup of all-purpose flour. I'm going to use a fork to break up the butter and flour at the beginning, and then use my hands to finish off creating that crumble. We're going to put our graham cracker crumbs into our vanilla pudding base, along with that half a stick of room temp butter. And we're going to add in a splash of vanilla extract. In the strawberry bowl, we're going to add in half a cup of our flour and our room temp butter. And now we're going to crumble it up, first using a fork, and then finishing off with our hands. You can kind of twist your fork. We don't want the butter to be totally melted and liquefied. We just want it to be chunky. And we're going to be creating basically sandy texture. So the bowl is kind of sliding around. Just to help myself out, I'm going to throw down one of our Borderlands Bakery anti-slip mats, so that it doesn't slip as easily. And I'm going to keep breaking up the butter. And then when all the big chunks are kind of like broken down into smaller chunks, I don't know, that was a bad description. But those are the words that come to mind right now. Basically, you want to break the butter up a little bit, but not melt it, which is why we're not using our hands straight out the gate. But once it looks like this, you can go in with hands, clean hands, obviously, and go ahead and smash it together. And you can wear gloves for this part if you don't like getting your hands dirty. I totally get that. And you'll see that the butter melts a lot faster in your hands. Sometimes wearing gloves, if you have higher body temperature, is actually helpful for making a crumble so that you don't overly melt that butter. It's looking real good. You just want to make sure that all the big chunks of butter are incorporated into the mix. So what we're looking for is sandy texture. You want to make sure it's evenly incorporated. So if you find any like dry spots at the bottom, make sure you incorporate that. Well, here's where we're at. We're pretty much there. And you know it's done because you can kind of squish it together and it'll stick to itself. But the moment you break it apart a little bit, it will kind of fall apart. Sandy. You'll notice that once we move to the strawberry one, that's going to look a little bit more sandy. This is because this is graham cracker and it just sticks to itself a little bit more than if we were just using flour. I'm kind of feeling this crumble and it feels a little wet to me. And you'll know because you'll spot the difference between how the strawberry mixture feels and the one with graham cracker feels. And I want to get rid of a little bit of the extra mixture. So I'm going to put in an extra tablespoon of flour. And this is a change I'm making on the fly based on my intuition of how crumbles are supposed to feel. I'm going to throw in about a tablespoon of flour to help dry things up just a little bit. Some of the moisture has been absorbed by the extra flour that we added in addition to the graham crackers. So if we squeeze it, it still stays together, but it crumbles a bit easier, which is what we want. I'm gonna wash off my hands and then we're going to do the strawberry one in the exact same way. Now we're gonna do the same thing for the strawberry one, using the knife to cut the butter into, using the fork to cut the butter into the dry stuff to begin, and then finishing off with your hands. Clay is whispering, "It's a fork, it's a fork." Pulling out my glove for this one because I am going crazy touching the other one. I think it's easier with a glove too, but it's probably just in my head, not wanting to touch stuff. Just use like 2 fingers, don't like stick your whole hand in there, you know?
Oh, it feels like moon sand.
Oh yeah, that's
like
so
moon
good.
sand.
Yeah.
It's like that sand that I think it's just called moon sand.
Kinetic sand?
Yeah, kinetic sand. And
Kinetic
this
sand
one feels
is
very,
not.
it's not
yeah.
quite there.
It's
but
like it's like crust almost, pie
Yeah.
crust.
That one feels really good though.
I'm not crazy. I just got validation. The strawberry one feels significantly different from the other one that we did. Graham cracker and a little bit of flour, and then this one only had flour and Jello base. So it feels like kinetic sand, as Clay described, which is really good. And if you squeeze it together, it's definitely more crumbly. So if you're only using flour to make your crumbles and not like graham crackers, it's going to look like this, and that's okay. Next thing we're going to do is grab a baking tray lined with either parchment or silicone baking sheets. I'll link the ones that I like here. And you're going to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're going to mix the crumbles together, spread them out in an even layer on your baking tray, and then bake them for about 7 to 10 minutes, being careful not to burn them. We're gonna throw all the crumbles onto our baking sheet, all of them. I'm going to kind of squeeze and mix them together, but also not be too, like, we're not gonna like completely homogenize our mixture. We want a little bit of separation between the graham cracker crumbles and the strawberry crumbles. I'm just kind of combining it so that they would sort of look like the real deal, all mixed together. And you don't have to squish it totally close together or into like dough, for example. You just want to mix it up casually. Big chunks are okay, small chunks are okay. You can go in and break it up again later. But if you're getting like really big chunks, especially of the graham cracker based crumble, just break it up a little bit. It'll bake a little bit more even if you do that. And then we're just going to spread it out in a relatively even thin layer. And then we're going to throw this in the oven for about 7 to 10 minutes, keeping an eye on it. You will know if it starts to burn. It needs to come out immediately. Keep your eye out around the edges. It'll start to brown, and the moment it browns, you want to take it out. And do make sure that your oven is actually at 350 because a lot of our ovens are off. Use an oven thermometer. If your temperature is too high, your crumbles are going to burn really fast. And if your temperature is too low, all that butter is going to seep out before it has a chance to sort of, quote, cook the mixture. Use an oven thermometer. We're gonna time it for 8 minutes and just keep our eye on it, making sure that it doesn't burn. I think it's gonna need another minute or so.
So what do you like about this?
What do I like about the crumble? They're tasty, but mostly I want to incorporate that flavor and the nostalgia of the crumbles into a dessert that we're making. So whether that be like cheesecake or macarons or sugar cookies with buttercream and then crumbles, I want to get creative and use these crumbles in other desserts. Just took this out of the oven. We ended up doing about 9-10 minutes in the oven, and you can see how, because we use graham cracker as a base for the crumble, it behaves a little bit differently than when we use only flour to make the crumble. You can see that it's a little wetter, a little more fat, but it's going to dry. Dry. It's going to cool down, and as part of that cooling down process, it'll solidify a little bit more. We're gonna let it sit for about 20 to 30 minutes so that it totally cools down. You can also throw it into the freezer, and once it's cooled down and solidified, you can go ahead and break it up into crumbles. The tray is totally cool. I actually end up sticking it in the freezer for about 5 minutes, and everything is solid, as you can see here. And we're going to start breaking it up. And this will be a little more kind of like bendy. How do we describe it? It's not as crisp as if you were using only flour. The graham cracker has a lot more sugar in it, and it does affect the way that it behaves in the oven. But we're still going to be able to crumble it up nicely. And if we compare side by side flour only crumbles to graham cracker crumbles, there is a difference not only in the final texture, but also the color. The graham crackers are already golden before they went in the oven, and they brown just a tad more. The only flour ones stay pretty pale if you get the bake right and you're not over baking or burning your crumbles. So I recommend trying both ways, with flour only and with graham cracker, to see which one you like better. I'm going to end up mixing both of these into the same container and just using them like that. So taste test to see what the difference in taste is like between the two, graham cracker crumbles versus flour only crumbles. So graham cracker only crumbles. Okay, so you definitely get that strawberry like you would in the normal flour only crumbles. You can definitely taste a graham cracker. So it's another layer of flavor and interest in addition to what was there when it only had the flour in it. At the end of the day, it all comes down to what your preferences are and your ease of access to the ingredients and your budget. Graham cracker crumbles are going to be a little pricier than if you use just all-purpose flour, and the texture is different. If you're a purist and you want to stick with the OG strawberry crumbles, I say stick with the flour. If you want a little bit more complexity and interest in your crumbles, try the graham cracker method. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and let me know if you try any other flavors. I think I'm going to try a couple of other flavors like key lime and throw that over pie or meringue and just see how that tastes. Hope you guys enjoy the video. I'll see you in the next one.